settled our differences. He's all right. And Corey's a nice guy. He was just, when I worked with him, he was just 11 years old and working with a bunch of adults. And he was, you know, an 11-year-old kid sitting on the set. There's nothing for him to do. And he gets mischievous. He gets into trouble, like any kid would, you know. And that's where it all started. He started having a time with me, was getting behind me and tickling my ears or something with weights and sticks and just different things. And because of that, people made a bigger issue of it than it really was. And I got after him a couple of times, but I never really hurt him. I had one opportunity to get him, and I got him pretty good by the neck. But anyway, I didn't hurt him. The kid's all right. I was told he was coming to this show, and I was looking forward to seeing him again. But he's not here now. Thank God. Anyway. Come on, some people out there. Any questions I can answer? Yeah.
Is it true that you gave your neighbor kid your original hood that you wore in Park Wars?
Yes, I did. And I'll tell you why. It's a little tough to talk about it, but since you brought it up, I'll tell it. I had watched this kid grow from the time he was 4 years old. And I have where I live, I have a woodworking shop. My hobby is woodworking. And between the property where he lived and mine, there's one gate in there that he used to come over and watch me do woodworking. And from the time he was like 6 or 7 years old, he grew up watching me do woodworking, and we became friends. I mean, as an adult and then as a kid, but I liked him because he liked woodworking. He liked working with wood. He liked watching me do it, and little by little, he would do a little bit with me as time went by. And then I didn't see him for 3 or 4 months, and I couldn't figure out what the heck happened to him. And I saw his dad one day pulling out of the driveway, and I happened to be walking over by him, and I said, "Art, where's the Corey, not Corey, but Lewis?" And he said, "He has cancer, and he's in the hospital." Well, that was a joke to me to know that that young kid, at that time I think it was 12 or 13, had cancer, and I didn't know that it was, actually they said it was terminal. It's hard to go back and talk about it and not get a little upset, but I'm not going to do it in that way. If the people out here in the audience, has anybody that's ever been affected with cancer, just raise your hand up. Let me just see how many people know. I wish the people up front turn around and look back. Keep your hands up for just a second. You know, 98% of the people in here have been affected in one way or other with cancer. And you know it is beatable. You know it is. We can beat it. And they're beating it day after day. And it's just a shame it didn't happen 30 years ago, that we didn't find a cure for it 30 years. We don't have a cure now, but we're 90% closer to having a cure than we were 30 years ago. I didn't mean to get into this that far. Go ahead, any other questions?
Another question over there?
Well, I got one. You're in this movie called The Hidden. You did the movie The Hidden? It's a movie done in 1987. You did a stunt in that movie.
The Hidden?
The Hidden?
Yeah.
The Hidden.
Hidden with the
Yeah. I think you play like a secret agent man who gets shot by the alien. You know,
Who's
the guy.
the star of it?
Yeah.
Who's the star of it?
Kyle MacLachlan, the guy from Dune.
The Hidden, I know you did.
Is it the alien? Is it the, are they the aliens with spraying on?
Well, it was just a brief scene where I saw he got shot like twice in the arm or something in that movie. But there was a scene where the alien was chasing the senator, and you were protecting the senator in that film towards the end of that movie. I was wondering if you remember shooting that scene.
Jerry, can you tell me what he's saying?
I'm trying to remember. It was called The Hidden. I remember you working on it, but I don't remember what scene you did.
It was towards the end of the movie.
The Hidden.
What year did I do that?
1987.
1987.
Is it in?
Do I have to pull up my IMDb right now?
Is it the?
For you?
no, I'll just explain to the people. Folks, I made a living working in the motion picture business, and I worked 5 days a week and sometimes 6 days and 7 days on location. It's very hard to go back and remember things that I did 30 or 40 years ago. And even though they're big hits were big hits then and still are to some people if they go and see them again for the second or third time. But I didn't remember making a picture called The Hidden. And I don't remember that either.
That's what I hear.
Now I remember. That's what happens when you get to be 93.
That's what happens when you have a career like this man's and you can do as many movies as he does. Do we have any other questions out there? We have one in the back there. Speak up if you don't mind.
So, you were offered the role of Jason in a couple of other Friday the 13th movies after the final chapter, but you turned him down.
I can hear about every other word.
So you said you were offered a few other roles at Jason after the final chapter, but you turned them down?
Any particular reason? Was it called because it was called the final chapter, and you were like, "That's it"? No.
Was there any reason why you turned down the role again?
Well, number one, I had an opportunity to do 5 and 6. Excuse me. I felt that having done 4, there wasn't anything I could add to make 5 and 6 better than what I had already done. I'm not saying that somebody else couldn't do it better. They could, and they did. All I meant was, I thought everything that I knew about what I should do in number 4, I did. And that was the best I could do. But I thought possibly a new person with a new outlook on that particular actor and what he was going to do would be better for it than me. And that's why I didn't take it.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Steve?
How much of, you followed 2 previous actors playing the killer. How much of that did you take, or how much of that did you maybe want to make it your own, knowing that you were following 2 previous actors having played the role?
So you followed 2 other actors playing the part of Jason. Did you take any part from their roles and incorporate it into yours, or did you do your own take on Jason?
You know what? I hate to excuse me. I hate to tell you this. I never saw any of the Jason before that. I never saw it. I just didn't go to them. I have 2 boys, and my youngest boy had seen 1 or 2 of them, and when I told him that I was going to do one, he got very excited about it. He said, "Pop, could I come down and watch?" Which he did. But no, I haven't seen any of them at all. And I didn't have anybody to bounce off of, as we usually say. I just had to go in and do what I felt was right. And I didn't know whether it was right or it was wrong. But I made up my mind that I wasn't going to walk like Boris Karloff. I made up my mind I was going to run, and I did it. And everything I thought that a man would do if he's healthy, he should do. He shouldn't try to make himself a cripple if he's not. And that was my take on the whole thing.
And I think a lot of people, especially in this crowd, I'm just looking around as you were saying that, and I think a lot of people appreciated that take that you took on it, going away from the slow walk, but yet he's still going to end up in front of you somehow. So yeah, I think that's a great decision that you made. Do we have another question over there? All right, my little man.
How was it working with John Wayne?
What did he say?
How was it working? What was it like working with John Wayne? With Marion?
Well,
Good question.
I met John Wayne in 1957 on the set of Rio Bravo. And I didn't know let me go back a little bit. There's a place in Hollywood where you go down and get wardrobe. And wardrobe is what you wear in the motion picture business when you're doing a part or doubling somebody. And I was working for Warner Brothers, and they sent me down to get dressed. And I went down, and in the green room, that's where the big name stars are. And where the stuntmen and the actors and so forth are in what they call the overall room, where everybody goes in there and have 9 or 10 different people trying to wait on you. The green room, when I walked in, the lady there at the desk said, "Ted, you go to the green room." And I said, "Well, I think you're wrong. I'm just a stuntman." She said, "No, you're doubling somebody in the show. So you go to the green room. Well, the green room was where all the actors got their costumes. I had no idea whose costume I had, but they were fitting me in it, and it turned out everything I put on fit me perfect. They didn't have to alter anything, the shirts, pants, everything fit me perfect, even up to the boots. So 3 days later, I'm told to report to the studio, and they're taking me by car to the airport and flew me to Tucson, Arizona. And we got to Tucson late that afternoon, and we were scheduled to start working the next morning at 6:30. And when next morning at 6:30, got up, went down, and walked right on the set, which is an old Tucson. There's a movie set there. I don't know if any of you folks have ever been there, but it's an actual street on both sides that they've been shooting on for years and years, shot all kinds of movies there. I went down there to get my wardrobe on, and the guy that put wardrobe on me said, "This is funny, that everything fits you to a perfect T. If you don't have anything with your head size." And I said, 7 1/8. And he said, "That's the only thing that's different. The guy you're doubling is 7 1/2, or 7 3/8. And I said, "Well, then I don't wear a hat." He said, "No, we'll fix the hat for it to work." So I went out on the street. I wore these clothes, put them on, got on the street and sat down. And about 20 minutes later, I see the rest of the crew coming in. They're setting up the camera shot for the street. And I looked down, and here comes a guy walking up, and I looked again, and I said, "Oh my God, that's John Wayne." Now you got to think, here's a guy that was only 19 years old, and grew up worshiping John Wayne. And here I'm seeing him walk down the street, and he's wearing the same clothes I got on. And I thought, this can't possibly be. How am I going to be able to tell my kids or my people around where I live that I doubled John Wayne? They're not going to believe it. And I met him for the first time. And first words he said, "What's your name, kid?" And I said, "Ted White." He said, "You play chess, Ted?" I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "Sit down, I'm going to play." Played chess with him for 3 or 4 times. He beat me every time. And that was my induction to John Wayne. And I had the pleasure of making 5 films with him afterwards. What a nice man. Wonderful guy.
Great story, great question. Got one right back here first. Yep, with the hat.
How was it working with Walter Brennan?
Walter
Brennan. Y'all gone, please. Nobody can tell me nothing out here. No one That was my favorite movie.
You knew Walter better than Walter. Walter Benn's a wonderful guy to work with. He's just a character, you know, but that character comes out in every film that he does. He plays the same guy all the time. Just like Wayne. Wayne plays the same guy all the time. He's John Wayne. He wouldn't be anything else. He can't be Cesar Romero. Yeah.
Being in a few movies myself as an extra, Killer Angels, Gettysburg, The Blue and Gray. It is acting, but I appreciate what you do because it is a lot of hard work actually. Because production people like Ted Turner.
You know something? This is ridiculous. I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, just let me finish.
Yeah.
Would you mind getting up and coming up this way and
Not at all.
let's talk again? Because the people are getting tired of me hollering, "I can't hear you."
We're doing bleed.
Yeah.
I've seen myself being an extra in movies Gettysburg and The Blue and Gray. It was a lot of work. I'm a historical reenactor. We come with all our own props, our own guns, and so the prop department like this because we had everything. On the movie Gettysburg, there were 6,000 of us there, and I know Teddy Turner liked to have every ounce of sunlight there was. You had it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I noticed you, but it was a good feeling doing it too, though. I just say I appreciate it.
Well, on the Alamo, we had 12,000 mounted Mexicans for the initial charge of the Alamo. And they were in color costume, red, green, and white, and they were mounted on horses. And when the first cannons went on, there was the biggest exodus of men and women and horses. It's not women, but I mean, half these horses never heard of any kind of a rifle, high pistol shot, or anything, much less a cannon. And they scattered and went everywhere. They took the Wranglers nearly 3 weeks gathering up horses, and we never got all the horses back. And we never got all the guys back that were on the horses. That's how bad it was, because nobody thought of rehearsing the horses to the cannons. You know, now, yeah, with a gunshot, we can rehearse them, but a cannon, they never thought about it. So because of that, another man, we lost him because of it, he got killed. But I'm glad you brought it up. There are things in the motion picture business when you're working that you know you're going to do it. Everybody knows you're going to do it. But the very small things to get it ready to do it are sometimes overlooked. And I don't want to make this, and I don't want to be redundant. I want to tell it to you one time, the best way I can. When we did Horse Soldiers, we lost a stuntman on it. Only because what we did in rehearsal is not what we did when the shot was on, when the cameras were rolling, and I'll explain it to you. We had 2 guys working on the show. One was a stuntman, big heavy-set guy. He was in his late 60s, and he gained a lot of weight. He was probably 260, 270 pounds. His brother was a wrangler on the show, and for people that don't know what a wrangler is, that's the guy that takes care of the horses. And that's what his brother was doing. Well, in the show, what we were going to do, there's a whole row of cannons, probably as long as this room, and the cannons were spaced 6 feet apart. Back in those days, a cannon had a fuse on the top of the barrel of the cannon, and the only way you fire it is have a lit torch touch the top of it, and that ignited the powder and blew the cannon. The cannon blew a shell out. All of this was set up in advance. So I was leading 6 horses in front of this row of cannons, and for the rehearsal, they did not have the fire that each cannon would have had beside it. That fire has to be there so they can fire each cannon. You take a torch and touch it to that fire, and touch it to the top of the cannon, and it makes the cannon fire. Everybody understand what I'm talking about now? Well, they didn't do it in rehearsal. We just rode the horses by. So right behind me is this guy, the ex-stuntman. He's in the age of 60 and way overweight. And he asked me, he said, "Ted, how fast are we going to go?" I said, "Well, tell me how fast you want me to go." He said, "Well, just right out of a little gallop, just a small, short gallop on the tape when the cameras are rolling." And I said, "Fine, that's what I'll do." The only difference we didn't do was we didn't light the fires beside all the cannons that were going to ride the horses down in front of them. So when we got ready to go, they lit all the cannons, but they didn't light it. They lit the scene, but they didn't put the fires on. The fires were all automatic. I have to back up and tell it to you another way. They have fires all down in front of all those cannons. There's a line that runs right in front of the cannons, and it's got gas in it, natural gas. And they put them on, they have a burner on each one by the cannon. Makes it look like a fire with wood stacked around it. Everybody follow what I'm saying?
Like a Bunsen burner.
Yeah. So that wasn't done. We did the walk with the horses and everything, but the fire was never on. So when we got ready to shoot it, they hollered action, and they turned the flames up, and the horses were right by the fire. The horses were here, the fire was here. The horses scotched to the right, and when they did, it was automatic and fast. Well, the rider went off to the left, and that was the guy that got killed. He went off to the left, and his brother was a wrangler on the show. I didn't want to get into that, but that's something I want to talk about. It happens in the business. It does happen in the business.
I believe you had a question there, Patriots hat. Yeah, you want to come right up?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you again for having me to get on the side either. I know there's a lot of stuntmen that played the role of Jason Voorhees. Steve Dash, there was Dick Union from the beginning. There was C.J. Graham from Jason Lives, and Kate Barr, of course. As a stuntman, when you were filming Final Chapter, were there any particular stunts that you kind of had a disagreement with the director over, like, you know, maybe you kind of, as a professional stunt, and maybe you said, you thought to yourself, you know what, this is not right, there's something about this stunt that's not quite right. I mean, can you recall any of that when you were filming the final chapter?
No, because really there wasn't that much stunt work in Final Chapter. In fact, if you watch it carefully, there was no exciting car chases or high falls or fires or anything like that.
Jumping through windows or anything like that?
Well, going through the window, anybody in here could do that. Well, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it was candy glass, and in the motion picture business, it's glass made out of candy, and it's clear, and you can see right through it. But there are different kinds of it. People, some of the guys, when they pour them up to make a window, candy glass, like for a horse to go through the window, they'll pour it very, very thin. But then if they're going to have, let's say, a windy day, they'll pour it thicker so the wind won't break the glass. That's how easy it is to break. They'll make it thicker so they can make the candy glass in the window as thick as they want it or as thin as they want it. So when we did it with horses, now I've got myself off on another, I have to explain something now. When we did it with horses, get a horse to jump through a window, you can't just take a horse and get on him and ride him through a window, he won't go. So we covered their eyes, and here's the way we did it. We took a ping pong ball, cut it in half, and on each half we painted the horse's eye. Then we took both halves and glued them on the horse's face. Now the horse can't see anything. As long as he can't see anything, are you going to talk or am I going to talk? That's okay, I just thought maybe I'd listen to you. Anyway, that's how we got the horses to go through windows. The ping pong ball, put their eye, drew an eye on it, and then glued it over their eyes. What the horse can't see, he'll go ahead, and as long as you spur him, he'll go straight ahead. Or whichever way you got him. Does everybody understand what I'm saying?
Okay, I got you. Come on up.
In the newest Friday the 13th, the Never Walk Alone, or Hike Alone, was it weird to see your own stunts and killed as Jason shown after the fact?
So when you're watching, if I can kind of paraphrase there, when you're watching the newer movies, have you watched any of the newer movies, the newer Friday the 13th movies? And when you watch them, are you seeing some of your own stunts being done there? Or are you seeing the way that you played Jason be kind of relived through newer actors? Did I get that kind of right for you?
In the newest one, Never Hike Alone, it shows all of the old Jason death areas.
Oh.
Like where people were murdered.
It's just for part one, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like part 2, part 3, like part 1 when he went on the beach.
Yeah.
He
had
saw his
every part.
mother. Saw
It's each
Jason's
kill
mother.
from the first movie.
I'm glad you guys, I never heard a word of it.
No, so you're just asking basically, in the newest Friday the 13th movie, they do kind of a rehash to show all of the previous kills. We're not sure if it's all just from the first movie or from part 1, 2, and 3, as he was saying there. But have you seen any of those though? Like, I guess I can piggyback on that. Have you seen any of the newer movies, and what do you think when you see them?
I hate to admit, I never watched any of them. I didn't. It wasn't because it wasn't a policy to go see it. It's just that I was working, trying to make a living for my family, and I went ahead and did my own job. And for me to go back and watch it Friday the 13th, there was no money in it. I couldn't make, well, just something you don't do. If you're trying to make a living in Hollywood, you take a job as it comes up. If you can't get a job, then you're sitting at home. So it just makes common sense. You take any job, not any job, but you take 90% of the jobs that are offered to you to keep working. And going to see Friday the 13th, I couldn't make any money going to see the ones that I had already done, or the ones that other guys had done.
Fair enough. You got one more?
Yeah.
Come on up.
When you were doing the westerns out in Arizona and stuff, did you have to have the snake wranglers go out first thing in the morning to make sure there's none in the town? Snakes, rattlesnakes?
So when you were doing westerns, like you were with John Wayne, did you have anyone that was going out ahead of time checking for snakes and that stuff in the area because of the areas that you filmed?
All the snakes were on the set right now. No. We didn't have anybody looking for snakes. Believe me. There was snakes on horses.
You were testing for it on your own.
Yeah.
All right, my little man.
First you were a Marine, then a football player, then a boxer, then a stuntman.
So first
Did
you were a
always
Marine.
wanted to be the tough guy?
Yes.
Oh, I like that. So first you were a Marine, then you were a boxer. Was that right?
No, footballer.
Football, play football, then a boxer, then a stuntman. Have you always just wanted to be a tough guy? Is that the question I got right there? Have you always wanted, or have you just always been?
I want to make this perfectly clear right now. I never was, never wanted to be, never will be a stunt man, a tough guy. I'm just an old man making millions, that's all.
Then why did you be those things then?
He's asking, why would you want to do all those things? You gotta be a pretty tough guy to do all that stuff. I think we all kind of look at you as, you know, this
Well, I tell you what,
life guy.
it comes down very simple. Do you want to eat? You do the work. If you don't want to eat, don't do the work.
I'm in agreement with you all the way.
100%. Okay, do you mind just coming up a little bit closer so we can hear you? Awesome.
Was there any other stuntman that you particularly enjoyed working with?
Was there any other stuntman that I did? 90% of the time when you go on these shows, there are other stuntmen that you do work with. Some of them are old guys like myself. Some of them are young guys that just break into the business. And sometimes you have the privilege of helping the younger guys come along by showing them new things that you did, you know, in your older age, and things that you learn to do to make life easier for you in the business. And there are many things that you can do to make life easier for you in the business. Excuse me. I won't go into that right now because it takes a long, drawn-out thing. But most of the guys that you work with now are seasoned stuntmen. If you're on a major motion picture, the younger guys that are just breaking in, most of them are on television until they get their salt behind them and know more about what they're doing. Then they graduate to a major motion picture and big films. But television is the mainstay of 99% of the stuntmen in Hollywood. That's where you're going to get your bread and butter day in and day out. Now, if you go on a big film, you can go on a big film and stay on it for 6 or 7 months, where with television, it's 1 day or 2 days. Except back in the eras of 56, 57, 58, Warner Brothers had 4 different shows going that were westerns. I can't remember all of them. But many times I do 2 of them or 3 of them in a single day. I do one and finish early in the morning, and they switch me over to another one and finish that. Excuse me. And finally, at the very end of all of this, I did 3 of them in 1 day. And then the westerns finally just blew out, and we went in. Then the car chases. It was Hollywood gangsters, that type of thing. And there's words for it that I'm not using properly, but I think you're talking more or less the westerns. Is that what your question was?
About the stuntman.
Was there any particular stuntman that you enjoyed working with?
Well, yeah, there's several of the stunt guys that I enjoyed working with. Like I said, I know you don't want to keep hearing, but as old as I am, most of the guys I worked with are gone. You know, they're not around anymore. And there were several of them there that I started out with in the 80s, and we worked together for many years. And 2 of them I watched get killed while I was working with them. But that makes a very sour discussion here, and I'm not trying to do that.
Well, how about a happier question for you? A little bit easier one. As a stuntman and as such a stuntman that's known so worldwide, do you yourself have a favorite stunt that you've done? Is there something like you're like, this is my jam. This is what I do best?
Oh, that's a tough question.
I'm like Barbara Walters. I'm coming from hard.
The fight scene in Against All Odds with Jeff Bridges is one of the standouts. The high rise in Century.
Folks, this is my wife talking. She didn't know what she's saying. What'd you say, honey?
The fight scene with Jeff Bridges and Against All Odds was a standout. And of course, the Hatari, the Jeep turnover in Hatari.
The Jeep turnover.
The Hatari scene with the rhino.
Oh,
Your standout stunts that stand
Okay,
out
yeah.
in your career.
I think, what was that question the guy asked me?
We want to know about the
Who are your favorite?
other stuntmen that you worked with,
Yeah.
your friends that you worked with.
Well, this wasn't another stuntman. I was the only one in the Jeep.
Yeah, but he asked you what are your favorite standout stunts that you did.
Well, it's one of the favorite, yeah.
Helping me remember.
And a movie called Atari. I don't know, any of you ever see that movie? Raise your hand up and see.
John Lee.
Just a few of you. There's a lot of people in here that haven't seen it. That's all right. This was done in Africa in 1960. And John Wayne, Bruce Cabot, and Elsa Martinelli, that was part of the cast. I was fortunate enough to go over to double John Wayne and to shoot a second unit. The second unit, for those of you that don't know, is the stuff that the first unit don't have time to shoot. Most of that is action. And then not only just the action, but drive-bys. A drive-by is when your camera's set up and a car goes by, or a wagon goes by, or a horseback. That's called a drive-by. That kind of stuff, the director doesn't want to mess with it. He wants to get the real acting going, and he goes with that and gives that to the second unit. And the second unit would be me shooting that kind of stuff. So the one shot that I was not the second unit, I was the first unit, was I was in a Jeep. And how many here, again, show me hands that saw Atari? There's 4 of you that know. But then you know that the Jeep, the stuff with the Jeep, was I'm in a Jeep, and we're out in the desert, and I'm the passenger, and the driver at that time, the driver was on the right side of the Jeep, not the left side, where it's normally it is. In the show, the script called for this rhino to charge the Jeep. So as we were driving around looking, we had a spotter plane in the air looking for rhinos, and he was radioing back to the company, and the company would take the radio then, and we had a radio with us in the Jeep, the guy and myself, and they would say, well, we found one, but we don't know if we can get him over here. And then if they finally found one, they said, now make a left turn and come over this way. We finally got over to where the rhino was, and they found a big male. And they said, okay, this is the one we like, and go ahead and get in close enough and let him charge. So the camera car, they made one of them, 2 of them, were completely flat bed, just a flat bed all together. And then the driver's seat was the only seat in there, and then on the back of it was like the bed of a truck. We had 2 cameras mounted. So the truck would go out, and no matter which way they were shooting it into an open field. Well, when we got out there, we saw this rhino, a big male, and the driver was a guy named Kerry Lofton, who passed away a few years ago, and myself, I was the passenger. And so as we came into the scene, Paul Helmick was the second unit director and associate producer of the picture. He saw the rhino and he said, this is the one we want. And he said, I'll tell you when to get ready to start. Now here's what happened. And here's how you had to do it. In the scene, what it called for on the script is for the rhino to gore the passenger and the horn go through his left leg. So Howard Hawks had a horn made up and had a leg made up. And the leg was from the knee up to the hip, and the horn was, the rhino horn was about this long. And he did a tight close-up of a horn going through the leg and the blood squirting out, and it looked as real as it could possibly be. Now that was already shot, that was all done. So now we're in the Jeep, and here is this big male rhino, and Howard Hawks is talking to Paul Helmick, the second unit director, and he said, this is a rhino we want to shoot. Tell Ted and the guy driving, this is it, and we'll let him know when we're shooting so we can go through it. Because here's what had to happen. to make it look real, the pants I'm wearing, the rhino has to go through my left leg. So they take my pants and they sand the top of the pants with sandpaper, make it tissue paper thin. Then they put a metal plate all the way around my leg, and we put a squid. A squid is like the cap in a shotgun that goes off, that makes it fire. That's just a squid. They put a squid on top and a squid on bottom. They wire those together and bring them to one wire, run them up my pants leg, up through here, down through my shirt, and into my hand, and on the button. So when the rhino charges and the horn comes up this way, what they've done, they've sanded my pants leg, and they planted this metal plate over my leg, put 2 squids on it. And on top of that, they've got a balloon. I think the balloon was oblong, about this long, and about that thick, full of blood. Normal, it looked like blood, it's not blood. And when I press the button, when that horn comes up and goes by my leg, I press the button. That button hits the squid, blows the blood off, and the top of my pants blade goes off. And then, of course, they cut the close shot that Howard Hawks made of the horn going through the leg. You can't tell the difference in the movie, but that's how it was supposed to go. Well, as we were doing the shot, instead of the guy driving, he's supposed to, when the horn comes up, he's supposed to turn to the right. All this conversation went on, he forgot what he was doing. And he turned and went to the left, and when he did, the horn went underneath the left front seat where I was sitting and flipped the Jeep. The Jeep went over 2 times in the air. He and I both fell out. The Jeep lit about 20 feet away, and the rhino turned and started back for us. The camera car saved us. They drove in between us and the rhino, and they got the rhino to follow the camera car out. That's just one time.
Wow.
Things happen that you don't count on. Things happen that you're not even thinking about. You're thinking about the shot you're going to do and how we're going to do it. And so they said, well, we knew what we were going to do, and it would have worked fine, except for the one thing, the guy turned the wrong way in the Jeep. So we're going to go back and do it. We did it the second time. It worked out fine. But in many instances in the motion picture business, you'll find where you set something up and you put it all together and you know it's going to work because you've done it before, or you know it's very practical, it's the easy thing to do. And then at the very last minute, something happens that you have to change it. Either a camera moves to a wrong position, or they put a different lens on, or some directors call him a cameraman from another shot. Anything can happen where they change the scene, but they don't tell you, the stuntman, what's been changed. The communication falls apart. From that, we have a man that he's gone now too, but he lost a leg on a shot where we had a bunch of trees, telephone poles, on the bed of a flat car, a train. And we had them where they rolled. And at a certain period of time, they're supposed to break loose and fall off. And they said, here's the one thing we have to remember. Just before they roll, we have to let him know so he gets a foot stand and a handhold, with a chain handhold, so he can make himself steady so he doesn't go with those when they start rolling. Well, everything went fine and dandy, except at the last minute, they forgot to tell him that they're going to roll the logs. They rolled him, he went underneath the flatbed, cut half of his face off, and cut his left leg off. So things like that happen in the motion picture business. Things that you don't think or don't expect to happen because people neglect or forget to do certain things they're supposed to do. Yeah.
Any more questions there?
One more.
Last one?
Do you know what happened to the first mask in part 4? Because there were 2 masks used and one disappeared off set. Do you know what may have happened to it?
Sure I know. I took it home.
I think that's probably it.
No, I only had it for one day. There was a little boy lived next door to think I told you part of this earlier, and he came down with cancer.
I'm a hockey master.
That's what I'm gonna tell you.
Oh, okay.
You're getting a little ahead of my story.
Sorry. Forgive me.
I gave him the hockey mask. That's what happened.
And the hood.
And the hood. So we got them both. Not bad.
You got the rubber one that you made, did you know they made a rubber one that went over my whole head? And glued it down around my neck? Well, I gave him that one and I gave him the regular hockey mask. Today, if I had that hockey mask, not a doubt in my mind, I could get $50,000, $60,000 for it. And I know people here that don't know what I'm talking about. That seems to be some kind of a magic thing, that hockey mask in that particular show. I don't know if it's still true or not.
Okay, last one, and then we're gonna get out of here.
There's a video game out there right now, Friday the 13th, by Gun Media. Did anybody from that company contact you about using your likeness?
No.
Did any of them?
Contact you about using your likeness with a video game that just came out.
No.
I know, like,
That was
you know,
2017.
did all the motions and for the game, but
Well, no.
all of the Jason's likenesses are in that featured in that video game. I was just wondering if anybody from that company contacted you about that. You know?
No, Kane Hodder talked to me. Well, I have to go backwards. Wait. Kane had I don't know, most people in here don't know this, or maybe you do, had a documentary made about him. Anybody in here know that? Oh, okay. He came to me and said, Ted, I'm going to have this documentary made. And he said, we'd like to shoot the documentary at your house. Now, I don't want you to start thinking I got some great mansion somewhere, because I don't. But I have a house on an acre in Woodland Hills, which is a very nice place to live and a nice house. But it's all opened out in the back. In the acre, the house sits right in the middle, so I've got a lot of ground in front, a lot of ground in the back, and I have a barn in the back with horses. So they wanted to shoot there, and he said, when this documentary's out, I'll get you a copy of it. And the documentary was about him. I don't know if you people know this or not, about how badly he was burned before he got into the business. How many of you here don't know that story? Don't know it? There's a lot. Well, I'm not going to tell his story. Well, no. He'll tell it to you sometime. You'll do a voice thing like this, and he'll talk to you about it. He's an extraordinary, unbelievable guy. The things that I know personally about him. Now I've lost my thought. Where the hell am I?
They never contacted you for licensing?
No. No, they never asked me anything about doing another Friday the 13th or playing the part of Jason or anything.
The video game.
Yeah, nothing to do with the video game.
Video game.
No, nothing.
Awesome. Great questions. There are some very excellent questions you all posed here for today. I just want everybody, if you can, stand up, give this man the round of applause that he deserves for a great career that he's had. Thank you so much.